on the new CBS Morning.
From ABC News, Washington. This Week with Sam Donaldson and Cokie Roberts, featuring George Will, and our roundtable with George Stephanopoulos and Bill Kristol.
This week, the videotape is released.
It depends upon what the meaning of the word is. I regret that what began as a friendship came to include this conduct, and I take full responsibility for my actions. I'm amazed. There are lots of times when I literally can't remember last week. If a bad person, she's basically a good girl. She's a good young woman with a good heart and a good mind.
In the tape's aftermath, talk of a possible White House deal with Capitol Hill to avoid a protracted impeachment battle. Is a deal possible?
And this week, renewed scrutiny of the Paula Jones case in the wake of the president's testimony.
I deplored the fact that they knew, once they knew our evidence, that this was a bogus lawsuit, and that because of the funding they had from my political enemies, they were putting ahead.
As Bill Clinton's legal team and the Jones camp intensify settlement negotiations.
If a substantial amount of money is paid in this case towards some type of settlement, that's a tacit admission that the case is not bogus, as the president indicated in his grand jury testimony.
We'll talk to the key players involved in any settlement or political deal. Advisors to the White House, Lloyd Cutler and Richard Benveniste, Paula Jones attorney Donovan Campbell, and Republican Representative Tom DeLay, a key member of the House leadership.
Settlements and deal making this Sunday morning. Welcome to our program. Before we begin our discussion of the week's events, some disturbing news this morning. Attorney General Janet Reno collapsed during a church service and was taken to Georgetown University Hospital on a stretcher. Ms. Reno has been suffering from Parkinson's disease. It is said that she was briefly unconscious, but the Deputy Attorney General, Eric Holder, has told ABC News that Ms. Reno's condition is not thought to be life-threatening. How long she is in the hospital is unknown, but it's a situation that bears watching. And now, Cokie, on to the week's events.
The week's events essentially were let's make a deal. The president trying to make a deal with Congress and with the Paula Jones attorneys. And for the latest on that settlement, here's Jackie Judd.
She said there would never be a settlement without an apology.
A public apology. That's all I've asked for in the first place, was an apology.
He said the suit was bogus, a political vendetta.
So they just thought they would take a wrecking ball to me and see if they could do some damage.
But now lawyers for Mr. Clinton and Paula Jones are negotiating to end a lawsuit that has cost each side more than they ever could have imagined. The initiative came from Jones. Her lawyers proposed a $1 million settlement, and there was no demand for an apology, which had blocked earlier efforts to settle. A large cash payment, they now reason, would be an implicit admission that her allegation against Mr. Clinton was true. It also would help Jones deal with her family's financial problems. President Clinton's lawyer, Bob Bennett, came back with a counterproposal of about $500,000. An advisor says as part of getting past the crisis facing his presidency, Mr. Clinton wants to wrap up the Jones case, get it all over with. Without a settlement, the case could continue to dog him. Now that the president has admitted making misleading statements in his deposition, legal analysts say it is more likely the Court of Appeals will reinstate the case. And Jones's lawyers are threatening to go to court this week, asking that the president be cited for contempt. If that were to happen, women who were deposed about relations with Mr. Clinton might provide potentially embarrassing testimony. He has already faced that situation once and knows what can come of it. Sam?
Thanks, Jackie. And now with us from Dallas, Texas, Paula Jones' lead attorney, Donovan Campbell. Welcome, Mr. Campbell.
Thank you.
And with us, as always, here to join in the questioning, George Will. Mr. Campbell, news reports have it that Ms. Jones is willing to settle this case now for $1 million. Is that correct?
Well, Sam, again, our policy has always been not to discuss any details of settlement negotiations, and we're going to continue that policy now. In addition, I have given my personal commitment not to discuss any settlement negotiations, and I intend to live up to that commitment.
Well, if you won't discuss the details, and we understand that, certainly you will confirm that there is some discussion underway, won't you?
Well, I will confirm that there have been recent reports of discussions, and some of those may be accurate.
All right, then, if we're going to talk hypotheticals, let's talk hypotheticals, as you lawyers say. Do you think Ms. Jones would like to settle this case? Or do you think, on the other hand, as her lead attorney, she is intent on pursuing it through the courts to the very end?
I think all litigants and all attorneys have an obligation to explore any reasonable settlement possibilities, and I think Mrs. Jones has always been reasonable in this regard, and so have her attorneys.
Why would she want to settle?
Well, there are many reasons that any litigant would want to settle. There's the uncertainty of litigation. Mrs. Jones' case was dismissed, as you know, at the trial court level. It's now on appeal. We're very optimistic about the prospects of that appeal, but one can never predict what judges may or may not do. So there is some uncertainty in the litigation, and that's usually the major impetus for any settlement.
Ms. Jones said from the beginning that this was not all about money. In fact, at one point she offered to give any money from the case to charity. At this point, according to the latest poll, 58% of the people believe her, believe that her allegations are true. So she's won that part, so isn't it all about money?
Well, it's never been all about money, but the focus now seems to be on money by all the media, yourselves included. And so let's talk about that for a minute. Let's assume hypothetically that a significant amount of money were offered to Mrs. Jones to settle her litigation. We would consider that a vindication. Mr. Clinton clearly has gone on the public airwaves in his grand jury testimony and called this case bogus and unfounded. If he were to turn around and pay a significant sum of money right now, that would clearly contradict this allegation of the bogus nature of the case.
And will she give it to charity?
Well, I think your information on that is incorrect, Cokie. We weren't involved in the case at the time, but the information I have on that is that at one point in time, she offered a portion of a possible settlement to a charity, and since then, that's never been revisited. So I think your information is slightly inaccurate.
Did the president's statement in the grand jury about this case change your tactics or the attitude of your client in this when she saw the president describe her case in that dismissive way?
Not really, George. Yes, the president did seem to be somewhat bitter and twisted about this lawsuit and about the way Paula Jones's attorneys have approached it. The Starr report makes clear and makes public that everything we did in this case, discovery-wise, was approved in advance by the judge, so that's a false accusation. But no, we're going to continue online just as we always planned. We're going to do what we have always planned. We're going to pursue the appeal. We're going to pursue other avenues of redress, and none of that will be slowed down unless and until a final settlement is reached.
Sam asked you why your client wants to settle. Let me ask you to speculate as to why Mr. Clinton wants to settle. They've consistently made much of the fact that he may have made misleading statements, but it was in a civil case that has been dismissed. From the fact that they now seem eager to settle, or at least that's one inference from the reports, should we infer that they believe there's a good chance that simply as a matter of law, your case might be reinstated?
Well, I would say they have at least three concerns, George. One is that, yes, as a matter of law, we may very well win this appeal because of several Supreme Court opinions that have come down recently and because of a very important Eighth Circuit opinion on sexual harassment that has come down recently. Point number two, we believe they realize that there are very significant risks of contempt and other sanctions that either the appeals court or the trial court could impose upon Mr. Clinton that would lead to a victory in our case. And number three, with every release of Starr evidence, virtually every week it's been going on, more crucial information from our case is revealed, which makes Paula Jones' case even stronger and Mr. Clinton's case even weaker.
Well, let me ask you just a moment to revisit I guess we're talking about the famous footnote in which Judge Susan Weber Wright so obliquely mentions the possibility of holding the president in contempt for testifying falsely in that case. Do you think that is a real live possibility?
Well, again, you can never tell what's inside any judge's mind, but in terms of a real live possibility from Paula Jones' side, yes, it certainly is. Sooner rather than later and more rather than less.
Mr. Campbell, you're talking about the Starr report. There's an intriguing part of that which talks about a woman identified as Jane Doe number 5, who apparently gave you, Paula Jones' lawyers, a deposition last January in which she denied in, denied in her affidavit that there had been any sexual advance by Mr. Clinton way back in, I think, the late 70s. The Star report says, in so many words, that she has now recanted that denial, that that affidavit that she gave you was false, according to her. What can you tell us about this?
Well, what we can tell you is that this apparently is one more example of a false and perjurious affidavit and testimony, apparently sponsored by Mr. Clinton and foisted upon the federal court system. We intend to take action on that basis. We've already have public pleadings filed to take the position that that affidavit and that testimony was false and was intentionally coerced by Mr. Clinton or those in his camp. Now we have the Star report and its appendix, which confirm that that affidavit was false and perjurious. And we're just wondering how much perjury and false evidence can the federal court system stand before something is done.
Do you take that action even if there's a settlement?
I'm sorry, there was two people talking.
Koki.
No, just do you continue with that action even if there's a settlement?
We continue with the action that we plan on, Koki, unless and until a final settlement is signed by all parties and is closed.
Now I wanted to ask you about the phrase you just used, apparently sponsored by Mr. Clinton, you said. Are you suggesting that the president in any way suborned perjury by this woman, Jane Doe number 5?
Well, Sam, our public pleadings have stated consistently that we believe Mr. Clinton and his surrogates have suborned perjury and obstructed justice in this case. And our public pleadings state that that Jane Doe number 5 incident is one example of that. Your ABC News has reported that another witness, Kathleen Willey, was subject to coercion. Our publicly filed pleadings take that position as well. So it appears that Jane Doe number 5 is yet another example of a witness who's been coerced.
If this suit is settled and the settlement is agreed to by both parties, does that wipe away all of these accusations and the public need to determine whether they are correct or not?
Well, that would be up to the court system. If a full and final settlement were reached, then probably the parties would agree not to pursue contempt and other remedies because of this perjury and infection that has been foisted upon the federal court system. But that doesn't stop the judges. The judges and the federal court system can still pursue any such cleansing mechanisms that they determine are appropriate without the participation of the parties.
Thank you, Donovan Campbell, for joining us.
Thank you.
Next, two men currently advising the White House on impeachment strategy, lawyers Lloyd Cutler and Richard Benveniste. And later, Republican reaction from House Majority Whip Tom DeLay.
From ABC News, This Week with Sam Donaldson and Koki Roberts. Brought to you by GE. From power generation to medical systems, we bring good things to life. And by ADM, supermarket to the world.
The following is a commercial message from the Archer Daniels Midland Company.
Every minute of every day, 1 in 5 people on our planet suffers hunger and poverty. Malnutrition is a factor in more than 16 million deaths a year, 30 a minute. A child under 5 dies every 2.5 seconds from malnutrition and preventable disease. At the dawn of a new century, the world is better equipped than ever to move toward eliminating hunger. But it will not be easy. Preventing more than 40,000 deaths a day will take some time, not to mention better farming and food technology.
Getting food to those who need it most will be the 21st century's biggest test. As a world-leading agri-processor, the Archer Daniels Midland Company does not take this challenge lightly. Nations that have modern food systems can ease the pain known by far too many as hunger. What we don't have is time to waste.
Introducing the remarkably innovative GE Profile Performance range with a revolutionary bridge that connects burners so you can cook any size dish. And its true temp oven is the most accurate in America, so you can also bake and broil like a gourmet. It's so versatile, you could get carried away.
Dad, I usually just have cereal for breakfast.
Go, go, Daddy! The incredible Profile Performance range, only from GE.
Welcome to Richard Benveniste, joining us here from Washington, and Lloyd Cutler, who's in Bridgehampton, New York. Thank you, gentlemen, for being here.
Thank you, Koki.
Now, As I understand it, both of you are involved in daily conference calls with the White House, trying to figure out what to do next. Is a Paula Jones settlement essential to any kind of deal with Congress? Mr. Cutler?
Is that for me? Well, let me make clear first, Cokie, that we are a group of private citizens with some past experience who are trying to find a solution of all of this. We're not speaking for the president. We don't bind the president. We're just looking for an idea. And on the Paula Jones settlement, it always pays, I think, to try to settle a case which is still subject to appeal and on which you have some mathematical chance of losing. If it gets settled, I would think that improves the president's position on all of the impeachment charges.
Is Congress likely to proceed with any kind of a deal with Congress without having that off the table, Mr. Mediste?
Well, I'm not sure I can anticipate what Congress will do, but I think, as Mr. Cutler says, anything that brings this matter one step further closer to closure, I think is a good development.
Now, you say you can't be sure what Congress will do. All of the indications so far from Congress, from the Republican leaders in Congress, is that it is not time to make a deal now, if ever. So what is the likelihood of that happening?
Well, I don't know about a deal, but I think that Congress, in this regard, and the Republican leadership, is somewhat out of step with the common sense of the American public. And I think the question is whether at some threshold stage, rather than dragging this out for 2 years, there is a determination as to whether this conduct arises to the level of impeachable conduct. And that's the issue that should be debated now. I think the answer will be no.
May I just pick up on that? Mr. Cutler, to reach that determination as to whether the conduct rises to an impeachable conduct, is it not necessary to first determine what the conduct actually was?
Well, it all depends on how you go about it, Sam. The House of Representatives performs the role of a grand jury in impeachment cases. A grand jury process, as we all know, is secret. When Mr. Rodino, Peter Rodino, ran the Nixon inquiry, he and the minority representative on Mr. Hutchison shared the subpoena power. They conducted their hearings in camera. They let the president's lawyer be present throughout. The president's lawyer was allowed to present witnesses, and all of that remained under seal to this day. The only things that came out of that grand jury and were reported to Congress that are public to this day are what was necessary to support the 3 counts of impeachment, which Mr. Rodino's committee reported out virtually unanimously.
All right, but
if we could play by the Rodino rules rather than the rules that the Republican majority seems to be trying to impose, what I call a full Monty impeachment process, that's a very different thing from what they're actually doing.
All right, Mr. Benveniste, let us assume that we play by the Rodino rules, can revert to them. Whether it is a secret discussion or a public discussion, my question really is, if you say that we have to determine whether the president's conduct rises to an impeachable offense, I ask whether you have to determine what the conduct is. For instance, the question of perjury. If the committee decides there was no perjury, then your question goes away. Ipso facto, doesn't the committee first have to decide, yes, there is perjury. Now, does that rise to the level of an impeachable offense?
I think, Sam, the issue on this is whether the material in Mr. Starr's report, which after all can be shorthanded in characterization as Mr. Starr's best shot, gives us the parameters of what's involved. Now, if you look at that, and I think the American public has determined that enough information has already been revealed, perhaps too much information, most people can get their arms around that information and see whether it rises to the level of an impeachable offense. When we have now the Judiciary Committee of the House of Representatives prepared to release the tapes which Linda Tripp made illegally under the laws of Maryland without a debate about the propriety of that kind of technique.
You know that for a fact that it was illegal?
Do I know? I know the law in Maryland says you may not record a telephone conversation.
So she is guilty of that?
I don't say that she is guilty. I say that certainly the law prohibits that, and the methods, I think, have been generally renounced by the American public, and Mr. Starr's embracing of those methods and adopting Linda Tripp and going forward with it is another reason why the American public seems to feel that this investigation is grounded in unfairness and looks at it that way. And so the question of whether the Judiciary Committee has some responsibility at least to discuss whether we take this kind of material and just splash it out, I think is somewhat a dereliction of their responsibility.
Mr. Cutler, in response to Cokie, you said that the reason for settling now is that there's some mathematical chance that there might revitalize the Paula Jones suit that the White House's stress so often has been dismissed and therefore was inferentially without merit in the first place. But is it not fair for us to infer from the fact that you people are interested in this that it's a fairly substantial mathematical chance that as a matter of law it will be reinstituted?
Well, George, those of us who are lawyers, and we suffer under the handicap of many, many cases we thought we were bound to win that eventually, even if we won them in the trial court, we lost them on appeal. There's always a chance you can lose a case. This is a case which the trial court has dismissed, and if we can make that, or if Mr. Bennett, who obtained the dismissal on a summary judgment basis, can make it stand up, all to the good, and that's worth something. It comes down to a question of the price.
You're involved in this process in part of your status as an honorary wise man in Washington. Another man, wise or not, on a rival network this morning, Mr. Carville, was saying of Mr. DeLay that he's a bagged man for the tobacco industry. Is that kind of talk helpful, and does that represent the real spirit of this White House?
Well, Mr. Carville speaks for himself. It's not the kind of talk I would use. And the only way you get to be a wise man is to outlive your contemporaries and keep your mouth shut.
Congratulations. Mr. Benveniste, we seem this morning to be operating on the assumption that the Rodino Committee's handiwork was a paradigm of fairness in impeachment matters, and you were involved in that, as I recall. Can you tell me, was that committee right when it included among its bill of particulars in the indictment of Richard Nixon that he made false and misleading public statements for the purpose of deceiving the American people? Is that a grounds for impeachment then and now?
I think that was the follow-on, George, to the basic cover-up of very significant crimes involving the misuse of the office of the president.
Your position then is it depends on what you're misleading the public about.
Certainly there is a big difference, George, between misleading the public about treason or bribery, or in this case, illegal wiretapping.
I got it. Let me we're almost out of time. Let me ask you another question.
Sure, George.
Part of the proposed settlement, as it's being speculated about, would be a fine for the president. Now, the Constitution forbids bills of attainder, which are bills that bypass the regular judicial process and punish a specific individual. Wouldn't that be unconstitutional, bill of attainder, a fine of the president?
It would be unconstitutional if it were not part of something to which all parties agreed, George. And I think we're putting the cart a little bit ahead of the horse. I think there should be a resolution. I think it's in the national interest to do it on the basis of what we know and what we know about high crimes and misdemeanors.
Mr. Cutler,
George,
go ahead.
If I could just speak to that. Yeah. We do have the Gingrich precedent, which included a reprimand and a financial penalty. And we also, there are at least 3 cases in which judges who were under the impeachment process in the House came out with a committee vote of no impeachment but a censure.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Cutler. Mr. Benveniste, thanks for being with us. Next, House Majority Whip Tom DeLay offers a Republican perspective on the politics of impeachment.
My doctor says I'm healthier than he is. I swim every day, and I take my blood pressure medicine regularly.
If you're taking a prescription, speak to your doctor about the pain reliever you choose.
The lake is good for your soul.
For people on certain prescriptions, Tylenol is the brand of pain reliever doctors recommend most, and Tylenol won't irritate your stomach.
When I swim, I'm free.
Tylenol. take comfort in our strength.
Because there is a man in Chicago planning his retirement this year. Because there is a family in Boston who hopes to send their kids to college someday. Because there is a doctor in New York looking forward to the day she will open her own clinic. Because the dreams of every investor continue to change in a complex world, so too have we. Which is why at Morgan Stanley Dean Witter, we measure success one investor at a time.
Rocks. Some people skip them, stack them, or just plain ignore them. But then there's these Texaco people. They love the darn things. Obsess over them. Go to the ends of the earth to find them. They study them. They scan them. Even taste them. Why? You find the right rocks. You find the energy the world needs to keep on running. Texaco. A world of energy.
Per generazioni la famiglia Capeci ha prodotto il miglior olio d'oliva di tutta l'Umbria. All'improvviso il mondo è cambiato. Globalizzazione, tragedia.
Perché piangi?
E piango perché tu devi partire per salvare la famiglia.
Ma nonna, c'è un modo nuovo di fare le cose. Io non devo partire.
Come? Mi fai piangere per niente.
The Practice, winner of 3 Emmys, including Outstanding Drama Series.
I wasn't thinking. You could get this far.
No, it was stupid.
Not stupid, Eleanor, criminal.
It's the season premiere that will give you everything you never expected. The Emmy-winning drama, The Practice. ABC premiere tonight at 10/9 Central.
Joining us now is the Assistant Republican Leader in the House of Representatives, Tom DeLay. Welcome, Mr. DeLay.
The whip.
The whip.
Yeah.
The whip. I don't think a lot of people understand what whip means out there.
Well, it's my job to herd the cats that are in the Republican conference and make sure they provide the votes for our agenda.
All right. Deal. Everybody's talking about the possibility that in the next few weeks, I guess, there'll be a deal between the Congress and the President and his people, which will cause all of this to go away. Will there be one?
I don't think so, not if I have anything to say about it, because a deal is unconstitutional. Our founding fathers were very specific about not setting up some sort of precedent or some sort of mechanism by which Congress can violate the separation of powers by punishing the President of the United States. Impeachment is a process of removing the President. It's not a process of punishment. And for Lloyd Cutler and Ben Veniste to try to say that censuring Gingrich and finding him under House rules is the same as what they could do to the President, he doesn't understand the Constitution.
Impeachment is a political process, as you know, and the polls say that the American public, by large majorities, don't want it.
Well, I don't read the polls, I read the Constitution. Polls are nothing more than a short snapshot in time. If we did what the administration always does and read the polls and then develop your rhetoric based on the polls, we'd never get anywhere. We're going to do our job. The Judiciary Committee is going to do their job, even with all the renegades trying to disrupt what they're trying to do. And we will move forward with one question. Should the President be impeached or not impeached?
Let's stipulate that you are, as you say, beautifully indifferent to polls, but you're hearing from your base. And it doesn't the Republican base in its fury almost hold the Republicans to pushing impeachment?
Well, they want the Constitution to be followed. I've been traveling all over the country, through the Midwest, through the South. Everywhere you go, they ask who are answering these polls. They can't believe that the American people think that we ought to upset the rule of law by treating the President of the United States differently than we would treat any other American. That if we do that, then that's the beginning of the end of the rule of law.
As a practical, prudential matter, can you have a party line impeachment of a president? And if the answer is no, then can't the Democrats, by holding their unity, stop this process?
I think I hope we can have a bipartisan approach. We have so far. We had over 140 Democrats vote to proceed. We had 63 vote against procedure. We have a tripartisan process right now. We have about 63 members, 11 of which are on the Judiciary Committee. 11 out of 16 don't want to proceed and are doing anything and everything they can to upset us going forward. But there's a substantial body of other Democrats that are really looking at this solemnly.
Actually, don't you have a quadripartisan situation right now? There are Republicans who are also upset that the leadership seems to be too adamant, and particularly an upset that Speaker Gingrich is out front on this, that is not helpful to Republicans seeking re-election.
Well, first, Cokie, I respectfully correct you. Speaker Gingrich has tried to stay above all this, and he is rightfully so, understanding that he runs the House of Representatives, and it is his job to stay above it.
But it was he who came out and had a press conference this week, for instance, on the subject.
Well, he was trying to lay out for the American people that we are going to follow the Constitution and proceed against all this.
It was he who gave the Republican radio address this week.
Well, that's true, but the point is that he is trying to convince the American people that we are going to follow the Constitution, and all this bantering about amongst the Democrats. One set of Democrats say we ought to move quicker, other Democrats say we ought to slow down.
What I'm really asking you is the political fallout from this, and you say you don't care about the polls. There's a snapshot of the moment, but we're about to have a moment called Election Day, and on that, what we're seeing right now is that unlike at the end of August, beginning of September, when things were moving in a Republican direction, that in the last 10 days or so, there's much Democratic intensity, and it seems to be as a result of the way Republicans in the House are acting.
I don't think so. I think it's the way the Democrats are acting, and the American people are responding. You know, you're talking about the polls. Dropping 9 points in the polls, we're dropping from 63% to 54%. Do you know where we were at this time before we took over the House in '94? 43%. So that doesn't bother us a bit. We think that the only poll is Election Day, and the American people will reward us for doing what is right and in following the Constitution.
The latest White House strategy appears to be now to train the guns on the Republicans, make you the issue. James Carville says you're the bag man for the tobacco industry. The White House says all of you Republicans want this unconscionable tax cut, which the president will stand in the way of, in order to save Social Security. It is an assault, an ad hominem assault sometimes, on the Republicans. Well, and it appears to be working.
James Carville calling me a bag man for the tobacco companies is like a frog calling me ugly. I think it's really sad, but this is just more of their pattern of conduct that goes all the way back to Arkansas. A pattern of conduct that's been established now by Ken Starr of lying, of covering up, of stonewalling and destroying your enemies. And that is actually what we're looking at, is this pattern of conduct that would undermine the system of government.
So you say there's going to be a vote, as Mr. Hyde says, the chairman of the Judiciary Committee, next week in the committee, and in the full House next week?
Yes, I think the committee will bring to the House a resolution of inquiry to proceed. It's not a resolution of impeachment. It's just to look into the matter. And I think we need to really understand how serious this is. We're talking about the future of this country, about a recklessness of a president.
You were talking a moment ago about a pattern of conflict that goes back to Arkansas. You were one of those who said that the White House operatives must have been, surely inferentially, were behind the release of the information about something in Henry Hyde's past. You want the FBI to act on it. Is the FBI acting? Do you still believe there are grounds for the FBI to suspect that the White House is behind it?
I definitely agree there's grounds. It's a pattern of conduct. Of trying to destroy federal employees. In the Travelgate instance, I could name a bunch of names where they tried to destroy people, and your own ABC News reporters reporting that it is against the law, George, to shop around stories with the intent of intimidating members of Congress, and the FBI is going through with their review.
Two questions.
But it's another example. Let me just say, another example of the recklessness of this administration. I mean, you've got to really consider how serious this is when you have a president that has his finger on the button and can send our sons and daughters to war, to die, sitting in the Oval Office being serviced by a 21-year-old intern while he's talking on the phone with the chairman of the Foreign Operations Appropriations Committee about sending our sons and daughters to Bosnia.
Do you still think the president should resign?
I think he should resign.
Well, after he resigns, if he takes your advice, which he clearly is not going to do, should he be tried in the criminal court?
I think this president has shown that he'll cut a deal with either Gore or pardon himself. He'll make sure he's pardoned before he resigns.
Two quick questions about procedures. Do you expect an impeachment inquiry to go beyond the matters of Starr on Monica Lewinsky into Travelgate, FBI files, all the rest?
We're not looking to, as Henry Hyde, who's one of the most respected members of Congress, and I'm so glad that he's chairman of this committee, we're not casting a web looking for other things, but if other things come to the committee, they will accept them and consider them, including the investigation of the FBI into destroying their
Now,
names.
your chairman of your Republican campaign committee, John Linder, has said if it's just what they have so far, it's not impeachable.
Well, I disagree with him. If a president of the United States commits a felony by perjuring himself and obstruction of justice, including what Nixon did, lying to the American people with the intention of deceiving, that is impeachable.
Thank you very much, Mr. DeLay.
Thank
you. Please come back.
Good to be with you.
Coming up next, our weekly roundtable with ABC News analyst Bill Kristol and George Stephanopoulos. In a moment.
It was over 100 years ago that a small group of men had an idea to combine the new technology of GE electric lighting with football, the first night football game. Both the players and the engineers ran into a few setbacks. And while that evening was by no means a great success, the GE engineers knew there would be other nights, brighter nights. And even today, with all our advanced technology, at GE, we know it's just the beginning. The future will be more brilliant than any of us can imagine.
Night football. Yeah, that'll be the day.
Just a thought, that's what Einstein said. Just a view of the future, 2 paces ahead. Thinking about me, thinking about you, all the good things a little good thinking can do. Good thinking means new ways of looking at things. Mona Lisa was smiling cause she could see wings spring from the brush. With each stroke of genius, the good things a little good thinking can do.
This week with Sam Donaldson and Cokie Roberts will continue in a moment after this from our ABC stations.
Monday, stay on top of the news and ahead of the headlines with Good Morning America. Plus, acclaimed author Alice Walker talks about her new book.
On Good Morning America.
No walls. Tear down the walls and you remove all barriers to progress. At SEI Investments, we give our associates unrestricted access to the most important investment resource available, each other. Exceptional talent, configured for maximum innovation.
Our people set new standards in investing every day.
SEI Investments, the art of people, the science of results.
Do you believe nicotine is not addictive?
I believe nicotine is not addictive.
I believe nicotine is not addictive.
I believe that nicotine is not addictive.
And I too believe that nicotine is not addictive.
I just couldn't believe it when those tobacco CEOs flat out lied when I questioned them about nicotine addiction in kids. Or that some HMOs think it's okay to muzzle doctors, tell their patients only about the cheap options, not the best ones. I guess I see it as my job to stand up to these guys, make sure that somebody's looking out for people. That's what I try to do.
Should this gorgeous dream home be torn down? Tonight at 6.
Well, what a difference a week makes. At this point last week, the president's support had eroded dangerously, and it looked like he was in terrible trouble. His videotape went on the air, and everything changed. Has it changed permanently, Bill Kristol? Is this president now survived?
No. 6 months ago, the president was smoking a cigar, or I guess lighting up a cigar and beating on bongo drums in Africa, right, Sam? You were there on April 1st when the Paula Jones lawsuit was dismissed. This next week, he's going to settle that lawsuit and basically admit guilt in it. He's by no means out of the woods.
It's like the stock market. I mean, it goes up, it goes down, any given day, any given week, but what's the long-term trend? well, it's either a bull market or a bear market, and this president is still very much in a bear market.
I don't know. I
he
think we
has
have to
not only not survived, but I think the issue is still in doubt.
George, I think we have to be a little more humble about our opinions here. I mean, all the pundits ought to go on probation. We've been consistently wrong about how the public is going to react to this. They saw the testimony and said, you know what, it's just too much. As much as we hate what the president did, it's just too much. And because of that, he is going to survive. They think the president's conduct was deplorable as it was, but not impeachable.
Well, George, I'm not aware that we really made a lot of predictions about the public. We have made some predictions about the course we thought the case was taking. And as far as mine are concerned, I still think the evidence in the end, tested, and must be tested, will control.
George?
Well, survive does not mean, but stipulate, getting away with it. I mean, the presidency's a carcass. The man is a subject of ridicule and laughter. He can't get his minimum wage through. He can't get anything through Congress. He hasn't gotten away with it. He has suffered what some people, perhaps the American public, in a kind of folk wisdom, have decided is condign punishment for this, which is mortification.
George, by the end of this weekend, he will have raised another $4 million for the Democratic Party, and that's coming from someplace, from people who don't think he's a carcass.
There's gobs of money in this country. I mean, we're going to spend much more than that on hot dogs this weekend. That's not a serious measure of public opinion.
I really want to disagree with George, though, with George Will. Surviving does mean getting away with it. One of the great, I think, conservative myths, Republican myths, by which they're now reassuring themselves is, well, he's finished anyway as a president. He has no moral authority. He won't be able to legislate. He won't be able to come back. I don't believe that. If he gets away with it, if he survives, if the House of Representatives does not vote to impeach him, he could be a strong president by mid-1999. I really don't buy the argument that he's mortally wounded and he'll never be able to dominate the issue agenda. Well, I could easily see him on the offensive politically by mid-99.
But I think that is the reason that people are talking about a deal. The question of doing something short of impeachment, but that is still punishing the president, saying he didn't get away with it.
Well, that's the reason that the Democrats are talking about a deal, because if the Democrats were convinced that at the end of the day, the evidence would show that he had not perjured himself, that he had not committed crimes against the federal code, hey, he's home free and should be. The reason you make a deal is to escape a final judgment on those matters.
The Democrats want a deal. The question is, will the White House figure out a way to get there? And the only way they're going to do that is if they don't mistake surviving for thriving. The one danger for the White House right now is overreading the polls this week, overreading the president's position in the wake of the Starr report. And they can't do that. They can't overplay their hand again. Well, settle the Jones case.
What the Democrats don't want to do is be put in a position of saying to the country, the president around whom we're rallying should not be impeached because he didn't commit perjury.
Right.
None of them want to be out there arguing that. Everyone knows he lied under oath. Everyone in the country, even the president.
If he lied under oath, that's a criminal offense.
But Sam, that's not what the country thinks. It may be, you know, there may be an argument for that. The Newsweek poll this week says 63% of the country believe the president lied under oath. They don't believe it's an impeachable.
All right, now, Bill, what about
decisions in this country?
Different point.
But what about that? If 63% say he's lied under oath, but they don't want impeachment, is it hurting Republicans to resist a deal?
I don't think so, but I think we'll see what happens on October 9th. That's the key moment. The House of Representatives will vote on authorizing an impeachment inquiry. Will Democrats feel they can oppose even an inquiry of impeachment when the president appears to have perjured himself or not?
They may be on solid ground in finding a way to oppose it. I think some will still vote for it, but they're looking now for alternatives. Can they vote for a timetable, date certain?
Well, there is a little funny thing, you know, they all keep talking about Rodino rules and that they want to go by Rodino rules. When I went to interview Mr. Rodino, he pointed out that the Republicans tried to get him to agree to a timetable in the Watergate impeachment, and he said no, that would be something that you could not do.
And consistency is not going to hold here. They want the timetable.
You know the Hill. When it comes to voting for an inquiry, a formal inquiry, will they look at the polls or will they look at other factors?
Of course they'll look at the polls, but the Democrats, right now, there are certain Democrats who are ready to vote for an inquiry, but George is quite right. What's likely to happen is they'll try to do something cute and come up with some sort of alternative that the Democrats can vote for, like censure or something.
Yeah, they need one other
something else
element
to vote for that they seem to be voting against the president, but they're not. October 9th is one date, but the next date is November 3rd. And it seems to me that that is the key date in terms of the president's survival.
Well, let's roll back to the Paula Jones settlement, prospective settlement. It's kind of clear now the president really needs that because of all of these things that Donovan Campbell was talking about that could rise up to bite him on the nose. That is, people complaining about other suspected perjury and subornation of perjury.
Well, now we
you
hear
get rid of
we
that.
hear that Mrs. Clinton is objecting to the Paula Jones settlement.
And she objected to the original settlement many months ago.
The infallible Hillary Clinton. She is wrong about everything. Go back to health care.
She's not wrong about everything,
She didn't want to
George.
settle the Paula Jones case. If we could all wave a wand, turn back the clock 2 years, go on our hands and knees to the president and beg him to settle the Paula Jones
But the
case.
surest sign there's going to be a settlement is a report in the Washington
Monica Lewinsky.
The surest sign there's going to be a settlement is a report in the Washington Post this morning that the president is talking to his chief fundraiser, Terry McAuliffe, about how to pay the settlement costs in the Paula Jones case. There will be a settlement this week. There has to be a settlement this week. Democrats need it. The president will.
A Paula Jones settlement.
Absolutely.
He needs it so badly. Why is she only asking for $1 million? 5. I mean,
but, you know,
she's got him.
Talk about unseemly, though, to go to fundraisers and ask big business people,
You're
whatever,
questioning Bill Clinton's
to give
sense
you
of the seemly.
to
My.
give money to pay off a woman who now America believes did have this
At
incident
the end of
happen
this
to her.
weekend, the figure is disputed by 1 or 2, but at the end of this weekend, he will have attended 97 fundraisers this year for the Democratic Party or one of its organs. 97.
You know, a week ago, everyone assumed the release of the videotape would hurt Clinton. It helped him a little bit. I don't know how much it helped him a little bit. Everyone now assumes that settling the Paula Jones case will help Clinton. I don't believe it. I think settling that case tells the American people that he's been lying about that for 7 years.
But they know that.
No,
They didn't know it until...
I don't know that they really know that. If they know that, and if they don't think he should pay any price for it.
It helps him because, although Mr. Cutler said a moment ago in answer to a question Koki asked him that there's a mathematical possibility that the suit will come back. I think there's a mathematical probability that that suit's coming back. Could come back a month from now.
It avoids discovery, it avoids a contempt citation, and it gives Democrats a chance to say he's been punished a bit.
He hasn't been punished at all.
Well, let's see what the voters decide in the election, which we will talk about when we come back in just a minute.
We're building them with steel and concrete, with hope and imagination. Every day, for nearly 200 years, Chase has been building the right relationships, creating more opportunities than ever before. To take you places you've never been, do things you've never done. Chase, the right relationship is everything.
There's a company out there in the business of moving things. It's not a trucking company. It's not a shipping company. And it doesn't carry packages overnight. It's a company in the business of moving ideas. Via long distance, wireless, video, internet, directories, and local telephone lines. What's the name of this company? Well, it begins with G, and it ends with GTE.
They are the most environmentally vulnerable of all living things. To commit to their future is to commit to ours. Southern Company, America's largest generator of electricity, is planting 20 million trees and pioneering the use of electric vehicles, all in a commitment to cleaner air. So as they take flight into the future, we'll be down here, helping to keep the environment clean and the power on. We are Southern Company, energy to serve your world.
Hi, guys.
For your local reseller, call 1-800-34-XEROX.
Tonight, the John Bonet murder case. New information, new details,
If they don't come up with anything more, is this the perfect murder?
and the lead detective who quit the case in protest speaks for the first time. An ABC News investigation. Barbara Walters, Diane Sawyer, 2020, tonight at 9, 8 Central.
What kind of man adores children?
All they have, sweet dreams.
Loves chocolate?
Very good, and it helps.
And has a problem with people who get away with murder? The kind that'll get to you. Michael Madsen, Vengeance Unlimited, special preview ABC Tuesday, 10/9 Central.
Well, what eventually happens to the president could depend in the long run about what happens on November 3rd as Americans go to the polls and actually vote as opposed to answering surveyors about what their opinions are. You get different points of view. The latest is Democrats are doing better. Do you think that's right?
They were doing better this week. There's no question about that. And they have some good issues like Social Security to run on. But the underlying structure still favors Republican. If you look at history, if you look at the money the Republicans have, if you look at the likely voters who are going to turn out,
and the marginal districts,
you still have to think Republicans are going to pick up some seats.
Well, the president's people, as you know, think they have a thing going now by attacking, changing the subject. I must tell you, George, as a newcomer to the White House press corps for this president is the most adroit at changing the subject and refocusing the debate away from something bad. I mean, if you say to him, Mr. President, what is that smoking gun doing in your hand? He'll say, you have the funniest looking hair anyone has ever seen. And, you know, all of a sudden, that's the subject.
No, but the reason...
They believe between now and election, they can change the subject. Monica who?
But the Democrats say that they are having trouble getting their message out because of Monica. I mean, what is your read on that?
Well, I think the Democrats have a tough choice. They can't change the subject. And the question is, are they going to defend Bill Clinton? Are they going to attack Ken Starr and the Republican Congress? Or are they going to move away from Clinton? 2 weeks ago, Dick Gephardt. 3 weeks ago, Dick Gephardt was signaling, let's distance ourselves from the president. Now they seem to be coming back to the president. This could be a great trap. I honestly think.
As the president would say, it's a false choice. They can condemn the president's actions, which they have done.
Way.
And yes, exactly. And then they condemn the Congress, Newt Gingrich, and Ken Starr for keeping the investigations going. And that's a very strong position.
I disagree. It's not a strong position. I think they're going to... This reminds me of 1994. It was 4 years ago in this state that the Republicans announced the contract with America, and the consensus in Washington was good for the Democrats. Republicans have overreached. The underlying tide, I think, is anti-Clinton. I think there'll be a big turnout, incidentally, this November. I don't buy the argument there'll be a small turnout. And I think that turnout will be a lot of Republicans and a lot of Democrats disgusted by the president. And if you look at the state-by-state polls, there's really not much evidence of a Democratic comeback yet.
In 1974, there was a huge Democratic tide after Watergate. Now, granted, Watergate had been settled, so it's a little bit different, but Democrats didn't have to mention Watergate in 1974. The subtext was out there, and it could do it on its own. Second, if the president's going to run against a do-nothing Congress, the postulate must be that the country's clamoring for the Congress to do things. It's not.
Well, you know, but the Republicans, it seems to me, are really like Charlie Brown in the football, because the Democrats, for once, did not have Social Security as an issue in this campaign. And in fact, what the pollsters are saying is that old women are falling away from the Democratic Party and from the president. Now, the Republicans might have just given them Social Security as an issue again.
Smart Republicans are taking it back. Look at yesterday's vote. Mark Newman, Senate candidate in Wisconsin, Linda Smith, Senate candidate in Washington, both Republicans, both voted with the president and against the speaker on Social Security. It shows he's in a strong
position. But why do they keep doing this?
Well, they wanted to pass a tax cut because the Republicans are supposed to be the tax-cutting party. It will never make it through the Senate, and if it were, it would be vetoed. If it were to, it would be vetoed by the president. But in a weird way, they want to show that they're, quote, legislating and governing. They don't quite have the nerve to say, let's make this election a referendum on Bill Clinton, which is what it's going to be anyway. That's the irony. No one's going to remember this tax bill a month from now.
Look what's coming. Another government shutdown potential.
No government shutdown. No government shutdown. There'll be a continuing resolution to keep everything open.
But Bill, isn't there a danger there for the conservatives? To avoid a shutdown, the Republican Party actually has to give the president what he wants on education, on health care.
But the conservatives are happy with the impeachment, so they don't need to make it serious.
No, that is seriously true. Impeaching the president is more important than spending a few $100 million extra dollars on education and health care.
If the Republicans aren't careful, I think there could be a shutdown. I think Bill Clinton would love, at the moment, to have that situation where he says, I have got to veto this for the public good. The Republicans have done it again. You remember when they did it before?
Look,
they've shut down the government.
Change the subject very quickly to end the program with baseball. This is the end of the season, and it has been quite a baseball season, George Will.
Best ever. And for the Cubs are almost on the verge of getting into the postseason.
This is something wrong in the stars.
Cubs have not won a World Series, it's well known, since 1908. That's 2 years before Tolstoy died. It's been a long time.
El Nino for this or something?
No, the Cubs, you can buy in Chicago T-shirts that say any team can have a bad century. Century may be coming to an end.
Sammy Sosa, he's got today to do it, and if they get in the playoffs, then he's got even longer.
Gets an extra day, and that day counts in the home run total.
I know it's wimpy, but I'm hoping for a tie. I think it would be great to have both of them.
You and George Will both have announced that you're both 90s guys on this issue, that you want a tie.
I'm a 50s guy. I'm with Ken Starr. Mark McGwire deserves the home run title. He'll get it. Sammy Sosa's a nice guy, and nice guys finish second.
And you?
I'm for Sammy Sosa because, as my husband has pointed out to me, the most common name in baseball today is Martinez. And I think that Sammy Sosa represents the future of baseball and the future of America.
Good girl, you always do what Steve says.
That's right, always.
The second most common name in baseball is Perez, and the fifth most common name is Martinez. Tells you where the talent's coming from in baseball. South.
That's right, and Sosa represents that. So,
exactly.
But the Yankees, I happen to know, have won 113 games, so it's a happy time in our house, which is all I care about.
I told you all I know about baseball. Sosa.
All right, Sam and I will be back in just a moment.
This Week with Sam Donaldson and Cokie Roberts. Brought to you by ADM, Supermarket to the World.
The following is a commercial message from the Archer Daniels Midland Company.
From the effects of wind and water, we are losing the fertile topsoil that took nature thousands of years to create. The 1930s Dust Bowl warned us all that food cannot be grown without topsoil. Today, American farmers are leading a change in the way they work the land so they can feed the world's growing population. Instead of the old methods of plowing, many use no-till farming, which leaves the soil virtually undisturbed, reducing erosion by as much as 90%. Stalks and leaves help to hold the soil in place, improving wildlife habitat and keeping our waterways cleaner. Conservation efforts now save nearly 1 billion tons of soil a year.
As a leading agri-processor, ADM salutes no-till farmers for making a difference in the lives of people now and for generations to come.
This curl, this smile, this tear, this look you know so well. You want to protect them with life insurance from a name you can trust, GE. Take advantage of GE's expertise to help protect this joy, this love, this hope, this promise. For life insurance and for every step you take in life, you can trust GE to help.
So there was this party, and everyone was there, and you had way too much to drink and messed up, and wished you could start over. It's called learning the hard way. This is easier.
It's Alcohol 101, the new CD colleges are using to teach responsible decision-making about drinking, or not drinking.
Okay, start over.
Alcohol 101 was created by the University of Illinois and the Century Council. The council is funded by America's leading distillers.
This is a virtual heart. I can see it and I can operate on it, but it isn't there.
Monday on ABC's World News Tonight with Peter Jennings.
Tonight on the new Sunday edition of 2020 with Barbara Walters and Diane Sawyer, the first TV interview with the former lead detective in the JonBenét Ramsey case. That's 2020 Sunday at 9 Eastern.
For the latest on Hurricane George, watch World News Tonight with Carol Simpson. ABC's coverage of George continues tomorrow morning on Good Morning America with Lisa McCree and Kevin Newman. And that's all for us this Sunday. Until next week, that's This Week.
Join Bill Crystal at 11:30 a.m. Eastern Time at abcnews.com on America Online. Keyword ABC News.
This Week with Sam Donaldson and Cokie Roberts has been a presentation of ABC News. More Americans get their news from ABC News than from any other source. ABC News, now always on.